Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Bikes for Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I'm your host. And today's episode is going to be all things East Texas Showdown and Slowdown. I think we're about exactly 30 days away from meeting at the Bullet Grill to get ready to dip our tires in the sand and the gravel and go take a tour of East Texas on your bikes. It's going to be great. Looking forward to seeing everybody. And so today's episode is mostly going to focus on, well, not mostly, it's all going to focus on the East Texas Showdown. We have curated questions from racers this year. You know, what do they want to know? And we brought in a panel of previous racers to answer those questions. And I might chime in a little bit here and there as well. So yes, today's episode is going to be very East Texas Showdown heavy. And if you're not planning on doing this route, I still think that you might be able to get value out of this because we're going to be talking about bikepacking, bikepack racing, strategies. It's all going to be specific to this event, but hopefully there are some tidbits that you can take away as well. So before we get into it, I first want to thank all of our sponsors for the East Texas Showdown. So far, Kuat, Quadlock, the Bullet Grill, Rockgeist, Wren, and Ruby Coffee have all stepped up to be sponsors of this year's race, and we appreciate and couldn't do it without their support. We are still open for sponsorship and or raffles, raffle items. So if you are or work at a company or organization that would like to help support this year's event in any way, we are accepting help. So if you would like to learn more, you could send me an email to bikes@bikesfordeath.com and we'll talk. Yeah. Okay. That's it. We're not going to do patrons this week and mini podcasts or anything since today is just about the East Texas Showdown. But next week we will be shouting out all the newest patrons and kind of getting back to our regular scheduled podcasting. So what we're going to do real quick is I'm going to go through a few items of business, some housekeeping, and then we're going to be joined by Alex, Lisa, Katya, Davis, and Dave, who all participated in last year's race, and they're going to be answering your questions. So if you are doing the race this year, please pay special attention to these notes because they matter. And if you're not doing the race this year and you're just listening for fun, you can go ahead and skip to about minute 12 if you just want to jump ahead to my conversation with the previous racers. Everybody else, stay right here for some important messages about the East Texas Showdown and Slowdown. First off, let's talk about camping before the event or where you should stay before the event. The Bullet Grill has since last year cleared out, I think, about 5 acres behind the restaurant there. There's still trees and stuff, but they've made a big camping area just for us. So the deals with that is that you can get there on Thursday, in the afternoon. You can park there. You can camp there for free. Yeah, I think Thursday night, that's going to be your best option. Of course, there's some Airbnbs you can rent. There's a Sam Houston National Forest that's close by. The Big Woods Hunter Camp is an excellent primitive camping location there. But otherwise, yeah, I think, we're going to have primitive camping available at the Bullet Grill. It's free. You'll be able to be there with your car and all your stuff. And I think that it'll just make it super easy for everybody to kind of facilitate being at the event and making it easy. Accommodations will be, the Bullet Grill will be open on Thursday night till I think about 10:30. And then they're going to be opening up Friday early with some tacos and coffee, I believe, for us. I mean, we got to pay for them, but it's going to be available this year. As far as camping goes, once they close, there's no electricity and there will be porta potties, but this is pretty much primitive camping. And I hope that you know how to do that. So let's just review the schedule of events real quick. And, just as a note, you can go to easttexasshowdown.com, and we've tried to provide all of the information there. When, where, we have the routes available there, the schedule of events, all kinds of stuff. So if you're looking to brush up on some East Texas Showdown, that is a great place to go. So for this year, the schedule of events is going to be almost identical to last year. We're going to meet up Thursday, March 31st at the Bullet Grill. Racer check-in will start at 6 p.m. and the pre-race meeting will start at 8. And by 9, we should be wrapping it up, and you can go to sleep or grab a beer, whatever your fancy. And then Friday, April 1st, the next day, we're going to be opening up late racer check-in at 6 a.m. And then the Showdown group start will be at 8 a.m. and the Slowdown group start will be at 8:15 a.m. Just a little bit of separation between those two groups. And then Saturday, all day, ride your damn bike. Cool? Then what we're going to do is we're going to meet back up at the Bullet Grill on Sunday, April 3rd. Starting at 8 p.m., we're going to have an after party. We're going to have live music with raffle, awards, and all the good stuff. A lot of camaraderie, storytelling, and I think for many people, kind of getting back together at the Bullet after the race is one of the highlights. And the other thing I would mention about Sunday is, as you finish your race, Sunday at the Bullet Grill becomes a great, almost like a live entertainment. There's a group of us cyclists there, some family members, friends. They come and we watch the dot on the screen with all the locals, and we'll come and cheer you on whenever you're coming in, or if you're going out on the death loop, we'll cheer you on and send you on your way. So Sunday's a great day at the East Texas Showdown. And one note about Sunday and the after party is that there is no deadline or cutoff for the race. I've tried to lay it out to where everybody or most everybody can be there by 8 p.m. or at least catch some part of the party. Last year, every single person was able to make it except for our Lantern Rouge. So we had a pretty high success rate of getting everybody to the after party. And hopefully this year the weather will be better and, times will be faster. So, okay, another very important note is spot tracker registration. Whether you are renting a device from track leaders or whether you own your own device, you have to fill out a spot registration. That link can be found in the show notes of this episode on the blog post at bikesfordeath.com, but also it's at bikereg.com/East Texas Showdown. Just go to the main registration page where you registered, and if you scroll down, you'll see a section called Event Notes, and there you will see a link to the track leader form. This form has to be filled out by March 10th, so you got like 8 days to get this done if you're renting a device, because we have to get Scott the final numbers, and he's got to get time to get all those together and ship them to us. So again, spot tracker registration, make sure you get that done. And that's about it. I just wanted to make a note. We are going to do some prizes, and we're still trying to figure out exactly what they are going to look like. The Showdown prizes are going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to have categories for men and women, first, second, and third place. But in the Slowdown category, we're going to have some kind of fun prizes. First, we're going to have Pro Slow, which is the slowest person, our Lantern Rouge. They are the most pro, the slowest, and they will get our Pro Slow award. And then if you go fast, if you accidentally go fast on the Slowdown, you're going to get a Faux Slow award. Okay, we'll still recognize you, but you kind of messed up there. You went a little too fast. But we're also going to do another category, which I'm personally really looking forward to, which is the best picture taken on the ride. So if you're a photographer or just somebody who likes taking pictures when they're out on bike rides, we're going to have a special hashtag. And if you post a picture, use the hashtag, you're automatically entered to win a prize at the end of the race. So I think that's going to be a fun way to have some different engagement. And we are working on maybe a couple other fun prizes, but we haven't exactly nailed those down yet. But, honestly, we might just kind of do it on the whim. It is April 1st and it is Fool's Day. So we might just make it up as we go, see what happens. Yeah, so we will get all that worked out. But the main thing is we are looking forward to hanging out, partying, and celebrating everybody who comes and participates, and we're trying to find some fun ways to do it. Now, I just got some breaking news from Seth Dubois with Ebb Media, and it looks like he's been trying to raise funding to come down and do a film of the East Texas Showdown this year. It looks like he's got all of his, he's got enough funding to proceed. And he literally just texted this to me, so I'm kind of reading it as we go. But it looks like he's talking about booking a plane trip and coming down here. So that's really exciting. We've been trying to get him down since the first one. So I'm super stoked that it worked out for him to be coming down this year. So if you want to be famous, I don't know, you might be in a film. It's going to be cool. And it's also worth mentioning that Maxwell Johnston is also coming back. He was our photographer last year, and he's coming back. And so expect to see him out on the course taking epic pictures. And, I'll be out on course taking mediocre pictures. But yeah, looking forward to all that. I think that's it. Let's turn it over to my conversation with the panelists from last year and get into answering your questions now.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes. Or death. Bikes. Or death. Podcast.
So let's, why don't we start out with just introductions? Start with you, Alex, but just who you are, where you're calling in from, and then what if you placed at last year's race or something that happened at last year's race that was memorable to you, and then are you coming back for the next year? So everybody got that? We got name, where you're calling in from, last year's race, and then are you coming back?
All right. Well, hi, I'm Alex. I'm living in Houston, Texas right now, wrenching for Edo Bike Co., East Downtown. And my most memorable experience of last year's East Texas Showdown was the fact that I had a plan that I threw out the window, ended up not sleeping at all, and ended up tying for first with David Easley. Sorry, there's two Daves here. And yes, I am planning to do it again. I'm still split between doing it geared on the same bike, All City Nature Cross, or single speed on a Surly Steamroller.
Cool. And we'll get more into some of that, go a little deeper in some of that stuff later on in the podcast. So, all right, Katya.
Hi, everyone. My name is Katya. I'm currently living in Katy, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston, about 20 miles west. I co-own a bicycle shop right here in Katy. I did 280 miles, so I did a slowdown last year. I had a fantastic experience. And this year, I'm testing myself for 380. So yeah, I am coming back.
Yeah. Davis.
I'm Davis Sims. I live in Bentonville/Bella Vista, Arkansas. Most memorable, I finished first on the slowdown, which was super rad, and I ended up going about 295 miles instead of the prescribed 270. And I am headed back down to do the whole damn thing this time.
Yeah, 380 miles, right?
Exactly. I'm ready.
Right on, dude. All right, Lisa.
Sweet. Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa Cervantes, and I live in San Antonio, Texas. I did the slowdown, and I completed it within my goal of 3 days. And as far as the next one, I'm not planning on doing the slowdown or the showdown, but I am considering East Texas Spectator.
Oh, awesome. I like that. I hope you do. Hope you do come. All right, Dave.
All right, my name's Dave Easley. I did the East Texas Showdown. I had the privilege of riding with Alex and finishing first with him last year, which was the thrill of a lifetime to meet him. Awesome human being. I'm unable to make it this year because of my teaching obligations, but wish you all the best, and I wish I could be there for sure.
Yeah, man, it would be nice to have you back, and that's the way jobs and families and scheduling go. Is sometimes they got to take the front row. All right, well, let's start with the first question. We're going to start with an easy one. I remember who wrote this one in. It's from Stephanie Hall, and she wants to know, what is your favorite caffeinated gas station beverage? So Katya, we'll start with you.
Oh, Red Bull, 100%.
Flavor, what size?
Red Bull, just like as it is. So caffeine and taurine, people, it's the combination of those two chemicals that make it. Also, I actually have a little show and tell here. A little trick that I've learned that helped me on my East Texas Showdown. These little guys, the Via instant coffee, I didn't boil water for this. I just put it in my water.
Yeah.
It's still caffeine. It doesn't taste great, but it does help with fatigue. For sure. Yeah, that's a pro tip. All right, Davis, what about you?
Same. Red Bull, OG Red Bull. Let's get the big one. I usually carry like an extra water bottle, just pour it in there and take it to go. But also pro tip, carbonation builds up. So, don't shoot Red Bull down your throat whenever you're opening it for the first couple of drinks.
Yeah, I've been back to the OG Red Bull myself. I tried all the flavors of the rainbow, and they're actually not bad. But man, that OG Red Bull is hard to beat. Sponsor me, Red Bull. Lisa.
Gas station. I mean, like my drink setup, the way I had it was really like only 2 water bottles and electrolyte drink. But when I was in a bigger town, I would actually go to like a donut shop or a coffee shop. But I mostly relied on just like electrolyte drinks. But that was my setup with like 2 water bottles and having 1 full electrolyte drink. And I did well with that.
Sick. Your turn, Dave.
Coke all the way. That's the only caffeine or sugar I'll have usually on a ride. So I'm kind of plain Jane, but it is what it is.
Hey, whatever works. The only time I ever drink Coke is whenever I'm on a hard ride, and a Coke. McDonald's need to get in on that. If they had all their customers riding long rides, they'd be drinking a lot more Coke, for sure.
Yeah, definitely the same. Yeah.
Or something. All right, Alex.
I'm not big on Coke sodas, but I say I reserve that for serious emergencies like last summer. That saved me once, but I'll drink the crappiest gas station coffee out there if I have to get a caffeine fix.
So you don't typically ingest caffeine? It's just...
I drink coffee every day, but leading up to something like this, at least last year, I reduced my intake before leading up to the race so that smaller amounts would go a little bit longer for me. And yeah, I only drank coffee, I think, halfway in Jacksonville at Whataburger, so mile 198 or something like that, and then halfway through the second day.
Yeah, that's the move. If you can get off caffeine going into it, and then use caffeine as needed, it can actually be a tool. Next one, tire choice. So this is always a fun question. Obviously, conditions could have a factor, and y'all saw that. But in your experience, well, I think there are 2 questions here. What did you run? I think the best way to answer this question is, what tires did you run, and would you run them again, or would you change them? And if you're going to change them, what are you going to change them to? All right, Davis.
So last year I ran a Terravale Sparwood which is just the big version of the Cannonball. Kind of like a raised, like smoother center, knobbier on the side. I wouldn't change anything, although I have some Pirellis on my new bike, which I'll bring those. And they've been great. I mean, there's no perfect tire. You just kind of run what you brung.
Yeah. And what width were those? Sorry.
They're Terraville Sparwoods.
But what width?
Oh, I'm sorry. 2.2.
2.2s. Okay. Thanks. All right, Lisa.
It was a huge, the bike that I had is a cross bike, and that's had a very limited, tire width that I can put on it. So I was actually riding 35s, and I consider myself super lucky that I made it through. I mean, the sand was pretty miserable. I did have a little breakdown at one point, just because every time I would go through the sand, I would immediately sink. But I made it with my 35s. I definitely would not do that again on 35s. I would do something bigger, and just thinking like if I would do it again, probably, with my only other bike, I have a Surly long haul trucker, like a 26 with a 2.1 tires, my like kind of biggerish tire I can put on it, but definitely do not recommend 35s on that route. But I did it. So, you're kind of pushing it there.
Oh, it's possible. I've done something similar in that terrain with like 32C tires. It's doable, but it's definitely not. There's better options out there. But hey, you can do it. What do you got, Dave?
So I rode Paneracer, Gravel King SKs, 43s. I don't think I would have changed anything. I think the amount of sand, especially in the second day, like around mile 300, was just bigger tires would have been helpful. But I think for the majority of the route, though, I thought 43s were pretty good. I was pretty satisfied with those. I don't think I would have changed very much with those, for sure.
You're kind of in the middle so far, Dave. We'll see. All right, Alex, what did you have?
I rode on Terraville Cannonballs 700 by 42 front and rear. I had absolutely no complaints about them. I mean, for me, mud is mud. You can put me on any tire and I'm just going to have fun with it. If it rained for twice as long, I probably may have considered the Terraville Rutlands. They're a little knobbier, a little more aggressive tread. But yeah, happy with what I chose last year.
Yeah, right on. What do you got, Katya?
So I had 700 by 42 Rec Hutchinsons. They're not very well known. It was just the biggest tire. Because remember, it was also COVID, super hard to get parts. It was the biggest tire I could buy, on that week, practically, to put on my bike. I made it, and it was okay-ish. This year, I'm going with 700 by 42, and I'm on Terraville's Cannonballs as well. But I could also do Max's Rumplers, 42s. I don't think they come with 42s. I've had really good luck with Max's in general. But saying, about Touareg, it wasn't great in mud or sand, but I didn't flat, not once. I didn't have any punctures over, 280 miles. So that was great.
Yeah. So it sounds like around 42, 43 is kind of the general consensus. But Davis, I'm with you. I've always ran it with the 2.2. So, and Davis, I have to offer you a public apology because in the Dylan Morden episode, we called you Aaron, and it's all because it's in my defense, it's because your Instagram is ar.davis. And I always in my mind thought your name was Aaron. But anyway, I'm sorry. Your name is Davis.
I'll accept your apology this time.
All right, thank you. Only this once. If I do it again, you have every right to hold it against me for sure. I meant to, yeah, dude, that was bad. I listened back to that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a dummy.
I saw Dylan today. I should have given him a hard time about it.
You should have. You really should, because he's the one that sees you every day. I feel like Dylan is definitely made more of an egregious error than me, and let's focus on that.
I'm just the nameless guy that walks in the shop all the time.
No, you're not. All right. So now Lisa is going to talk to us about brakes. And this is an interesting question. First of all, I think the most important thing, and I'll see what y'all think, is brake pads are probably the most important aspect of bringing extra, because we saw so many people run through their brake pads. But I also want to just mention that Matt Mason is coming with his single speed and is running a coaster brake, and will be the first person to run the East Texas Showdown with the coaster brake. So we can't talk about that yet, but we'll have to get that from him. But Lisa, what are your thoughts on brakes for the East Texas Showdown?
Well, in my experience, again, I think I was really lucky. I did have disc brakes and no mechanical issues, thankfully. And like, I feel comfortable with it being able to do some mechanical like maintenance, like while on rides, but like changing out my brake pads would have been like a really, really hard thing for me. So thankfully I did not have any major mechanical issues. But I was running disc brakes, and just with the conditions, I think of the rain, it made it like that for a lot of people that they lost their brakes. But if the conditions maybe were otherwise, or it wasn't so wet, maybe it wouldn't have been as bad. But yeah, my brakes stayed on. I mean, I had them the whole time. It was a little squeaky, but it didn't even rub that bad.
Do you happen to remember, do you know exactly what brakes you had and even what brake pads? I have no idea what kind of brake pads I have, but
no.
Because it's weird, because I think when we go down the line, I'm curious, but I feel like 90+% of the participants lost brake pads, and you're one of the very few. I'm surprised to hear that. You're just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, like like the combination of the small tires, like the brakes, and then mechanicals. Thankfully, everything went well for me. That's what I was able to finish. I don't know what brake pads they are, but I know that I haven't changed them out in probably a couple of years, really. So they've been on there. They've been on there, and I mean, it's a little cross bike. I don't know.
I think they're probably sponsored by your guardian angel at this point.
I feel pretty lucky, honestly. I do.
All right, Dave, what do you got, buddy?
All right. So I should preface it by saying that I got my bike like 2 or 3 weeks before that race. So everything was brand new. I had no brake problems whatsoever, very fortunately. But also, like, knowing that first day what the rain was like and knowing that sand was coming up, I tried to sparingly use my brakes like as much as possible just to sustain them. Because around Oklahoma City, where I'm from, you get that red dirt, you get like the rain mixed in, your brake pads are just thrashed. So I really tried to save them that first day. And I think that helped a lot, but also the fact that they were basically brand new. I mean, like 2 weeks old when I put them on. So
yeah, you came in pretty dialed.
Yeah, thankfully, luckily. I mean, that bike I waited for of course, like a year.
Yeah.
And it came in 2 weeks before that.
Yeah, the timing was epic on that. That's awesome. What you got, Alex?
My brakes went out 5 miles or so from the start. I got that bike in around my birthday, so I guess around August. And so it had seen heavy use on a lot of single track around Houston. I traveled a little bit with it, did a lot of gravel rides immediately. So the brakes definitely had some use. And yeah, so that happened 5 miles or so in, and it only got worse, even trying to be conservative. Pretty sure they're just the stock resin pads. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and I think then Dave became your guardian angel.
Yes, precisely. The nighttime was the hardest part because of that, just because I didn't know what these corners were looking like down hills. And so I was doing a lot of foot scraping. So my fancy Shimano RX-7 or RX-8 gravel shoes became my brakes.
Yeah. And there were Instagram pictures to prove it. I mean, I remember whenever you came in, actually, one of the first things you did was like look at the devastation to your shoes, and it was total devastation. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, single speed, we walk up hills a lot, but we were walking down hills during the nighttime ride too, which is weird for sure.
That's so weird. Alex, you're a bike mechanic, and Katya, you work in a bike shop too. So maybe do you have recommendations on what kind of brake pads? Like the same kind of question I was asking Lisa. Do you think that there's a certain kind of brake pad or brake system that would work better in those conditions?
Alex, probably you think metallic pad, right? Not organic.
Correct.
So that's probably best recommendation. And carry spare.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So metallic and spares.
Yes. You could also be smarter than all the disc brake riders and run, cantilever or
Canties.
regular rim
Well,
brakes.
like Nick on a Rivendell, he was on Cantus.
Right.
Super badass. But, I want to say the course is not super hilly. And I'm like Lisa, I did not lose my pads. I think it's because I didn't brake because I was going so slow. Honestly, downhill, I didn't have to brake. I'm like barely moving with all that mud.
Yeah. So what kind of brake system did you have? I know you were, you try hydraulic brakes.
I'm on hydros, and with hydraulics. So I would just recommend to take your bike to a shop before any big event. And because parts are hard to get now, just, come 3 weeks before, because if you're hydraulics, we're going to bleed you. Make sure your pads are good. If you're a mechanical, at least we'll look at your cable stretch and stuff, and we'll recommend you what pads to carry with you.
I couldn't agree more. I envy the people that have the time and the ability to do all the work themselves. I personally don't. And so I'm my guy and I drop off my bike before I go anywhere. I don't want to go on a trip and be worried about mechanicals, And so, if I can get it to the bike shop and have them make sure they check everything. They check the chain link. They make sure it's shifting right. They check the brake pads. They check everything and they make sure it's ready to go and I don't have to worry about it. So I think that's a good tip just for overall beyond brake pads, but just, bringing in a healthy bike to a bike race. So the next question is about how much food and water should you carry? This is an interesting question because it comes down to speed. How fast do you want to go? Are you going to be stopping a lot? Are you going to be, stretching your legs? And how much do you want to carry? So, answer this question, I guess, based on your own personal experience. Who are we starting with? Dave?
Sure. So I knew that I carried 3 water bottles and limited amount of food, because I knew that the biggest stretch was about 60 miles, and I knew like 3 water bottles, Texas, October, I bet that I was probably going to be okay with that amount of water with it. But I knew there was, 60 miles was like the max in between stops. The only one I was worried about was like the middle of the route around like mile 190 or 200. But there was a Whataburger in that town, which I knew would be 24 hours, which is like the lifesaver.
Right.
That was the only like stretch that I was really worried about. But, I had 3 water bottles, and it worked for me through the whole race for sure.
Yeah. And for perspective, you did win it alongside with, and y'all were on the showdown with Alex. What was your time, your overall time?
I think like 35, 36 hours or so.
36 and change. Yeah.
Yeah. Somewhere around there. Like about 8 a.m. to almost 8 p.m. So.
Cool. Well, this is a perfect segue to Alex. So y'all finished at the same time, both on single speeds. What was your approach to food and water?
I picked up a lot of stuff along the way at just convenience stores. I had a bunch of like easy, quick bars to munch on along the ride, but I tried to save that for the second half.
What was that now, Alex?
Just like quick, like fig bars, like anything I could take a quick bite out of and grab from the grocery store. So not necessarily cycling specific snacks like scratch mix specific bars, goo mixed gels, all that. I don't like goos very much. For water, I had 4 water bottles. I carried a Camelback with me that I never filled up, because 4 water bottles turned out to be enough.
Okay, so you had a slush fund of water almost if you needed it, but never needed it.
Yeah, my biggest concern being between Jacksonville and what store I come across the next morning opens. I wasn't sure if I was going to have water to continue through the ride through the night.
Okay.
But I did.
Cool. Katya?
So I love camping and bike packing with like camp stove. This time I didn't bring any of that stuff. I relied on my little coffee makers. I brought definitely hydration pills and electrolytes. So the electrolytes that I could carry with me, because I didn't want to drink just water. Just like any of you or most of you, I only had 2 bottles on my bike. I think I had an extra little bottle for my jersey pocket. But yeah, because there's so many places to eat. So basically, if you can ride for 50 or 60 miles on what you have, then you don't have to carry anything extra. What I would say, kind of what Alex is saying too, is if you're heading into the night and you know there's going to be nothing open, that's what you want to be prepared for. So, for example, I bought extra food on the second night. So I did it in 2.5 days. So I rode 2 full days, slept 2 nights, arrived Sunday morning or Sunday like at 12. So on Sunday when I got up, I was in the middle of nowhere and I made sure that I bought my burger before, and it was soggy and disgusting, but it doesn't matter because you get up, at 5 a.m, you just shuffle whatever you have. And on that last day, on Sunday, I was actually running low on water. Just because, again, I rode, several hours before then I hammocked, then I got up, ate all I had, and there was not much left. And then I had about maybe 30 or 40 miles till the next stop. I don't remember the names. But that's when I was a little bit panicky because I didn't see any water source. And I was even prepared to maybe use my filter because I had a filter just in case. But then this beautiful town showed up and I just like milk, chocolate milk and Red Bull and like everything I could jam. But yeah, I'd say like you don't have to worry about carrying anything extra apart from 50 or 60 miles, except when you're heading into the night or you're in the forest and you just need to have maybe one extra meal, right? And just a bit more water, like all of you, make sure your bottles are completely full. But now we're going to do it in April, right? So I checked the weather and it looks like it's going to be several degrees warmer during the day. And if it's sunny, then we all know how much water we go through.
Yeah.
I'm considering to have my hydration vest as well. So like if I'm doing a 100-mile gravel ride, I will have unsupported, I'll have 2 water bottles on the bike and the runner's vest. Not the Camelback, just the runner's vest, because I like water distribution better.
Yeah. No, that's good. What about you, Davis?
Typically, well, for this ride, I guess, I went out with like just a water bottle full of Tailwind, and I had a 2-liter bladder like in my frame bag. So plenty of hydration, a little bit of liquid calories. And pretty much just carried, like I didn't start with anything like crazy, but just like some Cliff Blocks, some gels, like things to get me between stops, if you will. So just easy bike food, a couple, maybe 2,000 calories, but, just stopping whenever I can and like getting real food for me is everything, that whatever, I think it's about 70 miles in, I think it's Spitfire Grill. They had some like really, crappy like wings, like barbecue wings that are boneless, but it was so great. You put them in a plastic bag and just take them on the road with you and they're good to go. So, relied heavily on gas station food, just carried some like, easy to eat gels and Cliff Blocks to kind of get me between towns.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I'm with you, man. I got to have like some real food on occasion or it gets to be a real challenge. You're just shoving food in your face. What about you, Lisa? What did you do?
I did not bring a stove just for the sake of trying to be as lightweight and not really have the time to cook or make anything. Just, those things can be bulky. So yeah, I also relied on gas station food and wherever I could stop. Had a few weird meals, hot Cheeto for breakfast and Gatorade. And then until I got to the next stop and like actually get some other food. But mostly
wait, you ate like the cheese out of the vending machine for breakfast? What did you eat?
No, hot Cheetos, like the chips.
Oh, the chips. Okay. I was seeing nachos. I was seeing nachos.
No, not nachos. That would be pretty messy. But I don't know. I went to the gas station. I'm like, I kind of want hot Cheetos. I got a beer like late at night. But what did save me, and I really appreciated that you did this, you had included the stops or like where the taqueria was at, or like food where you could get food. And I did the same thing. I got tacos, and like by the time I ended up in Mission Tejas State Park, my bean and cheese taco was all smushed up. But I mean, at that point, I did not care. I was eating it in the shower because I was like dead and I was hungry, and it was just the best thing I could eat, and I ate it, and that taco brought me back to life. And yeah, definitely just like whenever it's going to be a long night or there's not going to be any stops, just bring something extra with you. But also just eating bars, gummies. I love gummies, and that kept me going.
A taco in a shower brought you back to life, or a bean burrito in a shower brought you. That is like the best story ever.
I slept in the bathroom because I needed my electronics to charge, and I slept in the bathroom because I needed to eat, I needed to take a shower, needed a charge, and the bathroom was my refuge.
That's why you came in looking so fresh to the finish line.
I did take a shower. Yes, I did.
Yeah. That's why.
I needed it because, yeah, I needed it.
Yeah, respect though. Did anybody disturb you in the bathroom, or were you able to get a solid night?
Well, I slept in there for probably 2 or 3 hours until like my stuff was charged. I needed to check my stuff, but I also wanted to like set up my hammock. But no, I mean, it was really chill. It was in the middle of the night. I probably got there around 2 a.m. So it was like the middle of the night. If anything, I maybe have disturbed people just with my bike sound and like just rattling around in there. But I mean, it was fine. I had the whole restroom to myself, which was nice.
I love it. And that's bike packing, people. I love it. Okay, this is a good question, I think. What is the toughest section of the course? Alex, we're starting with you. And I think this could vary based on conditions, obviously. But yeah, Alex, what's the most challenging part of the course?
It's a split for me because of my circumstances last year. The hardest part was riding through the night because it was roughly around the halfway point. That was the hilliest parts of the route, aside from the Death Loop. This is a great loop. Other than that, yeah, the way back leading up to Groveton was probably like 20 to 30 miles of it. There was some pretty choppy, messy, sandy, all kinds of stuff just scattered along the gravel, even though it was a nice sunny day. But yeah, I would say technically the segment leading up to Groveton, that gravel, that sand that you had posted in one of your videos very briefly leading up to the race, that was probably the most intimidating just thinking about before the race even started.
Good. I like a little fear. What about you, Katya?
Oh, the sand of Palestine. That's why it's called the Palestine, because you're in a desert. I mean, it's like the beach. I mean, it's nonstop. I want to say whether it's dry or wet, that's going to be the hardest part for me, again, mentally. The one thing that helped me is guys from Edo were there, Nate and Calvin and CJ, and it wasn't me alone. We were just all hike a bike. But other than that.
And that section's hilly too.
There's some of it, and the sand is pretty deep. But you just do what you're gonna do, you just walk. And it's sad if you're alone, but if you see there's everybody else walking, you're like, I can do it.
Yeah, that's a pro tip. Yeah, if you're gonna get stuck in the sand, do it with friends. And it won't be as bad. But if you're alone, it's gonna suck 10 times worse. You're like, no one's even watching me do this. What am I doing? People are watching your dot. You do it for the dot watchers. That's why. You got to put on a show. All right, Davis or Aaron, whatever your name is. No, I'm kidding.
We'll go with Davis this time.
All right.
So it wasn't the hardest, but I think it may have been Groveton, where that old school. It was like early 19th century.
Yeah, that's not Groveton.
Where's that? That's a tough section.
That is a tough section. I know exactly what you're talking about. It was a community center that was turned in, or a school that was turned into a community center. There's the whole history on the board there. I'm trying to see what mile that's at.
I feel like it's like mile 55-ish, somewhere in there.
I thought it was later.
It's definitely before mile 100. I will say that's not the hardest section, but that one definitely comes to mind as one of them.
Yeah, I think I know where it is. It's between Lovelady and what is this town? Pennington, probably around mile, White Rock, around mile 64. So yeah, you were close.
I feel like it took me forever to go like 10 miles through there, and it just buried me. And like hurt me for hours after before I finally like came back around. I don't know what was so tough about it other than just sand and hike a bike. But this is also one I don't know where it is, but it's like coming into the finish for the slowdown where there's like the nature preserves on each side.
Mm-hmm.
There's a name for the road.
Old Groveton Road.
Okay, so that was the hardest section.
That's Old Groveton, yeah.
Okay, so I think I was the first one coming through, and it was still super wet and like muddy. So I hiked a bike the entire time, and I was so out of my mind. I blew the last town thinking, oh, I'm about to be done. Well, in my wrong turns, I'd added quite a bit of mileage. So I was like, I'm going to be done. So I just kept rolling and ran out of water on that, and it was all exposed and had no water filter, which was a mistake. But I was like looking for empty water bottles, seeing if I could like, grab a little water out of somebody's like throwing that water bottle.
Oh my gosh, Davis. Wow.
Yeah, I was
What
in a
about
bad
like
spot.
a car going by?
Well, it was so nasty. There was one car that came by, and it's like they didn't want to lose momentum because they were going to get stuck because it was disgusting. I tried to like wave at them, and they just kind of waved back and kept rolling. So I finally like got out and got to a town, and there's some kids like in the yard like playing, and I almost stopped and was like, hey, can I have some water? But then I was like, I don't want to be this like, I looked really disheveled. So I was like, I don't want to stop and like freak these kids out. So I kept rolling. Yeah, it's like this creepy guy on my bike that's covered in mud and just out of my mind at that point. So finally I found some like public service, like waterworks building that had a spigot on the side. And I was like, oh, thank God. I camped out there for about 10, 15 minutes before I rolled on. But if you're going into Old Groveton Road, take some water, especially if it's sunny out, because that was a terrible, terrible experience.
Yeah, I think the two sections you outlined are two of the hardest sections. The first section you talked about around Lovelady at mile 65, when we were having all the rain leading up to the race, that was one of the sections I was most worried about. And I was calling the gas stations at both end in Pennington and Lovelady and be like, hey, does anybody happen to know like what the condition of that random road is? And, and I love old country town folk, they're like, well, I don't know, Bob, did you drive down 2237 yesterday? And then everybody's like talking, and it's just great, man. It's great. But, that's a tough section, and Groveton Road is a tough section. I've ridden it when I did the Grand Gravel in 2018. It was so muddy. I have a picture where my bike was completely suspended by the mud. No trick photography, just mud and bike fully loaded, completely suspended. Now if it's dry, that section is like rutted out and kind of not fun, and you could like eat shit because you get in a rut. But if it's dry, it's just exposed. So.
Oh yeah, there was no riding.
No, yeah, dude. And then it becomes, instead of like an hour section, it's like a 5-hour section or something. So yeah. Good to be aware of that section. Lisa?
Well, like you were saying, I think it depends at what point like you are at whatever section, because I was getting really complainy about after Grapeland. Like, I guess I was also like chill mode. I had just got my tacos. I was good and okay. I got the rest. And then I hit this sand, and it was so deep. I took off my shoes. I walked my bike, seemed for so long, or a couple of miles at least, but I got off my bike And then, so I was just like complaining about that sand, and then having to get back on the same road that I was like, wait, I could have just gone straight. Why did he have to add the sand right here? But I mean, we had to go through it. But then later in the night, I hit Elkhart, from Elkhart to Mission Tejas. Then I hit that part of the sand. So it just like, I guess for me, it depended, like it just kept getting more intense or like harder. But definitely, I think those two parts, I just vividly remember that part after Grapeland because it was like outside and I could see the sand. So it just seemed like an infinite road of sand. And then at night, I mean, I couldn't really see like the sands in Palestine. I did cry at that point. That's like, at that point, I'm like, I can't see where I'm going. I'm just going to sit here for a second, let it out and keep going. But those were the hard parts for me.
Hey, that's always really impressive whenever you can like conquer that emotion, and like not let it conquer you, because when you're all alone out there and you're in the sand and nobody's watching, you're like, so props to you for keeping on. And you finished with a smile on your face, I know, because I was there. So
yeah, so I also had a lot of things like going on at that same time. So just with the multiple factors, and then the road too was definitely like crushing on me. But my goal was like, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. I got to get to my campsite. Got to make it to Mission Tejas. And I kept going, even though it was really hard. But yeah, those were that night. I think that day 2 for me was probably the hardest.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Everything was easy for you?
No. Like everyone else, Groveton Road was just like the worst. But there was like, I think there was a stretch of pavement, like you go into a town, then there's a stretch of pavement for a couple miles after Groveton Road, but then you hit sand again. And it was like, it was in the sunlight. It was like the right time of day. It was so hot and the sand was still like kind of wet-ish. And it's like you could ride through it, but it just zapped my legs though. I mean, that was, also like mile 315, I don't know, I mean 300 and something. And that was the hardest part. I mean, even though it was daytime, the sun was out, like you have some rejuvenation. But that stretch just killed me. It was tough. Like I think at one point I like probably turned to Alex. It was I'm done. it was hard. It was bad.
Yeah. Well, like I have some thoughts after hearing all your responses, and one, Lisa, why did I go through the sand and not on this straight road? And the answer is I was trying to get off of pavement and away from cars as much as possible. And so I purposely took the most remote, hopefully scenic, less populated route for a reason. But in my defense, I'd like to say that y'all rode that route in the worst conditions absolutely possible. And, everything that we're saying here tonight could be completely, well, not everything, but in terms of like the sand and the conditions, I'm telling you, man, if we have good conditions in April, this thing could be fast. You're not going to see as much sand. You're not going to have all the mud, and you're not going to be slowed down, and people are going to be cooking. And so while y'all's experience is 100% right, and there's areas that if we get rain and if we get similar conditions, 100%, we're going to have some challenging sections. But if we have good weather, it's going to be fast and fun. And yeah, Katya, what do you got?
Patrick, yeah, I would just want to say about Groveton, because I heard a lot about that road before the race, and I was a little bit terrified, like low-key terrified getting into it. But that's what we're talking about, different conditions. So I was coming much later than the boys came, because I was in Groveton on Sunday morning. And if you remember, Friday rained a lot. Saturday, we had no rain. So it had a whole day to dry. Night was dry. So by the time I got there Sunday early morning, like about 9-ish, it was fully dry. And I could see people walked. Like you could see there was a lot of bike and hike. But I rode like pretty swiftly. I mean, it was still, like you were saying, like that kind of mud, it gets very harsh. And you have to choose your line and pick your line and kind of weave through it. But there was no walking over there, at least. So definitely, like, it's so dependent on conditions.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's Exactly. And that's kind of the fun of it, to be honest with you, is like it's all depending on the weather, and I can't control that. I can put together a route that I think is good, but hey, if weather turns to shit, Um Oh my gosh, where do you poop? I
You
mean,
don't. You hold it.
A
You
gas
hold it.
station.
who else? Where else do you poop?
Either you don't, or if your stomach turns, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're gonna go when you go. Yeah,
You just carry some wet wipes. They're good for all sorts of things.
yeah. You can dig a hole with the back of your shoe, the heel of your shoe, if you got to.
I don't know if it's at that point. There's no waiting.
I had a little trowel or a little shovel and I never ended up using it, and it actually tore a hole in my bag. So maybe don't carry one, because it might cause more damage than good in helping you out when you actually need it. But yeah, I had a little shovel and I had it on my forks, and it made a hole just because all the bouncing and stuff. Just use the gas station or just go wherever you need to go. Nature calls, go when you need to go.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of resupply points. There's parks, there are, like campgrounds. There's quite a bit of resupply and potty options. So either use one of those, or you can bring your own little trowel and then maybe cut a hole in your bag. It's up to you. This is a good question. Did anybody ride single speed, and how did it go? I don't know, Alex and Dave. Did anybody ride single speed, and how did it go? Let's see. Let's start with Alex and then Dave.
It went great. No mechanicals other than brake issues, but they didn't stop me from riding.
So what gear were you running, and did you like the gear you ran? Would you run something different?
I think I was just a hair heavier than what Dave was riding. I believe it was, forgive me, I can't remember, but it was either 40 or 42 tooth up front and an 18 tooth cog in the rear. It was solid. It worked out.
Yeah, I mean, especially in those conditions, I can't imagine, single speed is just one less thing to worry about. You had a lot of other things going on, so.
Oh, yeah.
That one you didn't have to worry about. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I ran 42-18. That's kind of like the standard. I feel like you could have actually gone a little bit stiffer than that, because the hills were, any hills that you'd have to walk whether you were a little stiffer or not. But I thought there was enough flat, there was enough other parts. I probably could have gone to like 44, 45, 18, somewhere around there. But I wouldn't change riding single speed for anything. It was a great course, I thought, for single speed. It was a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah. I do think it's a good single speed course. I mean, it's all pretty rolling, except for, up by Palestine is where most of the climbing is. And you're right. You're gonna be hike a bike in that section anyway. So might as well err on the side of a little bit stiffer, whatever a little bit stiffer means to the person listening. But yeah, it's all, I think the topography is mostly like undulating and rolling hills. And we don't have big climbing in Texas, but were any of y'all surprised by the climbing that was on the course? Dave, you start.
Yeah, right after I guess it was Jacksonville, kind of like the 190 mile, 200 mile point. There was a neighborhood. I remember you talking about this.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a weird mix of nice houses and everything. There were a lot more not sustained climbs, but longer than what I'm used to coming from central Oklahoma. So they're still not very long, but I was surprised by that section in the climbing. I mean, luckily it was after Whataburger, and I was feeling way better than I had been before then, but it was more than I had expected for sure.
Yeah. Anybody else surprised by the climbing at all?
I think after Elkhart for me, it was I hadn't really looked at the elevation seriously, or the route or anything. It was just okay, this is what I got to do. But when it came to Elkhart, after Elkhart, there was those punchy little climbs right there. It was just whoop, whoop. But it was paved, so easy, but still were pretty steep, some sections. That did surprise me. because I knew I had a lot of riding to do after that. So that part kind of surprised me.
It surprised the crap out of me the first time I rode up there. I was like, I'm not ready for this. What's going on? Luckily,
Yeah, I mean, it was nice.
it's beautiful, and those descents are awesome.
Yeah.
But it's just that short lived. And I think if you know that kind of going in is like, there's going to be some punchy stuff kind of in the middle, but it kind of smooths back out after that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that before we move on to the next question?
The death loop.
Yes, I want to talk about the death loop.
Yeah, I don't have anything to gauge it or to compare it to because I haven't tried it by itself, although I mean to. And because that was mile 340 to 380, something like that. So I was already severely fatigued and delirious. But yeah, that seemed to be, it threw me for a loop. I mean, I didn't expect it. I know I saw the graph before the race, but I was so tired that, climb after climb after climb after climb on these highways, I was just getting a little anxious with some of the traffic, but not that they were doing anything wrong. I just wasn't ready to continue climbing for the final 40 miles of the ride when everything looked to flatten out on the graph.
I'm so glad you brought up the death loop. I meant to mention that because nobody brought up the death loop, but not actually, I guess 2 out of the 5 rode the death loop, right? So that would be part of the reason. But Dave, what about you? What were your thoughts on the death loop?
Dun, dun, oh, man. Well, I mean, yeah, the death loop, it was kind of rejuvenating, like passing y'all. It was kind of surreal in a sense because I didn't totally see everybody until like the last moment. And it was only like 30 or 40 miles, but it did kind of feel like a lifetime. The climbs right out of there on the pavement were kind of excruciating, honestly. But it was worth it though once we got to the national forest. I mean, that was beautiful. That was some of my favorite riding other than like I don't know what mileage it was, like early in the morning, like 6-7 a.m. earlier that day, but like in the mid 200s. But it was beautiful, that last 40-mile loop.
That was around whenever actually we caught up with you. We being the photography crew, we caught up with you on day 3. Y'all were looking good and feeling good. Y'all were in the sweet spot, I think, before you got to the death loop. Now,
before Groveton, yeah.
I want to ask y'all, before Groveton, yeah, exactly. Coming on to the death loop, we have 2 options there. You could pass by the bullet and go directly back into the national forest and onto gravel, and then finish on that pavement, or keep going down the pavement and then finish the way I have it. I did it the way I did it to kind of like, so you finish with, kind of the good stuff, the national forest, and you finish with that gravel, and that's the last taste you have. I don't know. What do you think as people who have done it? Would you change it or keep it the same?
I would keep it the same. Just being the very tail end of the ride, I would rather be on gravel and not worry as much about traffic as if we had to do it the opposite way.
Yeah. Dave?
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, as excruciating as it is, like that pavement right out of there, it was an awesome finish for sure. That like the descent going into the grill, it was beautiful. Yeah, I would keep it the same.
Yeah, and to address what you're saying, Alex, about the traffic, I agree. That is one of the biggest challenges that I think we face in Texas is getting away from cars, and that's why I prioritized it. And the whole reason the death loop even happened was because I was a reroute away from an even sketchier route option. And so it was kind of the lesser of 2 evils, but it's kind of taken on its own evil of itself. And I like it. I like it a lot. I love the fact that you have to ride past the bullet and make that decision. And then you have to live with that decision for the next 40 miles. It's like, Davis, you're shaking your head. Actually, okay, so Katya and Davis, you are both going to be taking on the death loop for the first time this year. Katya, hearing all this, Davis, hearing all this. Katya, you start. What are your thoughts? Are you looking forward to it? You scared? What are you thinking?
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I am scared and looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's been a sadomasochistic relationship with this route.
Yeah. That's the right answer. Davis.
I'm not looking forward to it. Solely for the fact that it's like, if your like wife drives by in a car and when you're in the middle of one of these races and you're that deep and like, you want to get in, I mean, I feel like chances are you might say yes. So like, if you remove that option, it's a lot easier to keep going. But if I like ride by, literally my car sitting right there and there's like cold beer and hot food inside, that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an interesting dilemma. So you have some options. You can just ride past, which almost everybody did. Most people were like, if I stop, I'm dead. Most people just kept on riding. But that's kind of the question is like, do you stop and refuel? Because it's a great refuel spot. They got a great restroom. All your friends are there, whatever. You want to stop and refuel, or do you keep on going? What do you think you're going to do, Davis? Katya, what do you think in this moment? What do you think you're going to do?
Keep going.
I'm going to keep going. I might be mad about it, but I'll keep going. I'll probably curse you more than I did last time.
I'll take it, man. And then I'll let you give me a hug.
That's fine.
Deal.
I told David that I was going to stop for a pretzel and a beer at the Bullet. And about maybe 50 miles out, I decided that was a really bad idea. So yeah, we stopped at the gas station or convenience store just before the turn, before you could see us, so that I could at least enjoy that beer real quick. And then we decided to bypass the grill.
Yeah, that's what I would absolutely recommend. Like stopping at the gas station outside of town, because then we had like the refuel. Alex had the beer, one of several, like throughout the whole ride. But
awesome.
We were ready to go like after that. And like the other thing too about the death loop that I didn't get to mention is like it's long enough that it's like it's a big deal. I mean, that's 40 miles, right? It's not like 15 or 20 miles. It's like that's a commitment to go that last 40 after all of the other miles you've been on. So like mentally, just you got to be there for it for sure.
Yeah. I think that's the fun, man. I think I'm glad that it happened. It was kind of a happenstance, but I'm glad because it'll take on its own thing. But it's a challenge. It is a challenge, and what you said is right. There's a gas station like probably half a mile before you get to the Bullet, and you can stop there. That's a great strategy. Stop, refuel, get yourself situated, go to the bathroom, and then ride by with a smile on your face and regret your decision for the next 40 miles. But that's so good. All right. Bugs. We got quite a few questions about bugs, and obviously bugs can change depending on the time of year. But how bad were they? Would you recommend insect repellent? Would you bring a tent or something to shield you from the bugs? Lots of questions about bugs.
Maybe I'm a terrible person to ask because I have a tick disease that I got riding bikes, because I never carry bug spray or tents or anything. But I wouldn't carry anything because just time of year, there's not gonna be a lot of bugs. I mean, Texas and Arkansas are fairly similar. I feel like that time of year, you'll be safe.
Lisa.
We must coexist with all the other creatures in the world, and sometimes they're insects. And I think that's also part of being outdoors. You just, like, it may be freaky. You're like, oh shit, there's a lot of bugs or ants going up this tree as I'm setting up my hammock. But it's like, okay, I'm going to do this really quick. Like, you just have to kind of deal with it. But I also haven't been there in the time where I know mosquitoes can get really bad. So also be careful. I mean, it's can also be preference. Some people attract more bugs than others. So it could be like that if you're worried about mosquitoes more. But that's completely valid too. Like if you want to, defect insects and stuff. But for my sleep setup, I did have a integrated net into my hammock. So I was not worried about bugs at night, but that might be helpful to sleep more comfortably.
Oh yeah. What hammock system are you using?
It's a REI. The strap system is not really that great because it can't really go for really wide trees, but it's nice that you can adjust it, and it just has the integrated bug net into it. But I mean, I slept all right. It was also like because of the rain, was concerned about, if it was going to rain more, but I ended up leaving my tarp in the car because it didn't look like it was going to rain. But actually, no, I did. I did bring my tarp. Yeah. Yeah, I brought my tarp and I brought my hammock. So yeah, I did have it because I was worried about the rain.
Cool. Dave is gone. Bye, Dave. Dave is partying.
I'm here.
What was your strategy to the bugs? How did you find them, and how did you deal with them?
I didn't find them that bad. I think like it really will. Like Lisa said, it's like it depends on your person, like how affected you are by them. I didn't really notice it to be a problem. Of course, October riding straight through, like even at night though, when you might expect mosquitoes, like I didn't find it to be that big of an issue for me at the time at all. So, and I didn't have a sleep set up because I was planning on just riding through. So I can't speak to that really.
What about you, Alex? I know you're not sleeping either.
I did not. I packed a hammock though, just in case, and that was a waste of time and space and weight. I think the biggest nuisance would be most times of year, at least in East Texas, has been mosquitoes. Everybody deals with it out here. If you're going to sleep, I would definitely recommend something with some kind of a bug net. So probably a bug bivy if you're okay sleeping on the ground. That, like Lisa said, a hammock with an integrated nut. I have a hammock with an additional bug net that I can wrap around it as well. But yeah, other than that, all the other insects are relatively harmless. I mean, they won't mess with you if you're not messing with them.
Oh, yeah. I think the biggest thing that you really have to worry about as a lifelong Texan and native to this area is mosquitoes and chiggers. I mean, both of which are not going to, be anything more than annoying. And so it kind of comes down to your personal tolerance with it. Katya, I know you also are a hammock sleeper. Oh, I wanted to mention real quick. Several people have mentioned hammocks. One nice thing about this route that I prefer as a hammock camper is there's lots of trees. All those loblolly pines make excellent hanging trees, and so for all you hammock campers out there, this is your paradise. So Katya, what was your experience with the bugs, and how'd you deal with them?
There were no bugs. There's just no bugs in October. April, I don't know. Where I ride here, we have a natural preserve, George Bush Park, which gets super mosquito-y, a lot of mosquitoes in there. And I will be using that as a judgment call, whether I bring my little DT, whatever spray or not. But you can get a super small bug spray, super small. There's I don't know how many ounces, but I didn't need any. Not in October.
I almost feel like mosquitoes are the biggest concern, and they can change so much and so rapidly. I almost feel like out on social media we should probably mosquitoes are really bad right now, or mosquitoes aren't so bad.
It's a weather forecast.
Yeah, like a mosquito forecast. Yeah, exactly. It's like the weather looks like this and the mosquitoes look like this. So, because I think that's relevant. I mean,
yes.
For me personally, if I'm going to sleep, I don't want to get ate alive. I just came back from Big Bend. It's funny. I mean, I got chiggers all over, and I'm a mess right now. I got spots everywhere. So I'm all about protecting yourself if you can. Okay. Cool camping spots.
Salmon Lake.
I knew. All right. I knew you love Salmon Lake. So why don't you start with Salmon Lake?
Sorry, everyone, to jump in.
Let's just do it.
Did everybody stay there? Did you guys stay there?
No.
Salmon Lake? Oh, guys, you missed out. So it has a camping spot in the center with a roof. So if it rains, but it has pillars. So if it rains, you can still put your hammock. Check it out. The pillars have power access. So you can charge your phone while you're sleeping under the roof in a hammock. I mean, all of these factors. Plus, bonus, it had a hose. outside of this whole meeting area. So we all came with bikes that were trashed. And the first thing you did is you could actually hose your bike down. I washed my bike, I lubed it right there before I even went to the shower. And it's a beautiful little spot during the day. I actually would love to go visit it, but I feel that's where I'm going to try to stay this time in April. So I'm going to try to do the loop and come back there before I continue, because I am planning to take a little sleep. I would love to stop there. They have fantastic showers. The showers inside are warm with mirrors and toilet paper, and they're wooden. They have actual, like, it just smells like pine. I mean, it's such luxury.
That sounds like luxury. I want to go there just
It's really good.
I just want to go there now.
If you want to bike pack, just do a trip through Sam Houston to David Crockett, choose Lake Salmon as your stopping ground. And then, like, outside of that spot where we stayed on the roof, there are all these old cars converted to sculptures and stuff. It looks like Ray Bradbury movie, Daffodil Wine or whatever. It's really, really cool.
The owners are awesome too. They're super nice to cyclists. We let them know when we're coming through, and they're extremely accommodating. They have, I wanted to mention that's at mile 120. So if I was going to do this route, me personally, I would camp at mile 120 at Salmon Lake, and then I would camp at Mission Tejas, which is at mile like 190, I think. Where are you, Mission?
Yeah,
Tejas?
it's earlier, but I ended up
240, I think.
I ended up.
Oh no, 250. That's what it's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that I just ended up camping sooner before that. That I wish I had camped there, because I camped at Radcliffe, and that was like maybe 90. But I could have gone more to do more miles in the first day. So
no, Radcliffe is after. Wait, hold on.
I stopped before.
The slowdown.
Yeah, for the slowdown. Like I went into Radcliffe to stop the first night, and then but that's a good option if you want to ride more on the first day. Ride and go camp at Lake Salmon or what is it called?
Yeah, Lake Salmon. No,
Yeah.
I'm with you now. So Lisa, what you're saying is on night one, you camped at Radcliffe Lake, and
Yes.
you wish you had went a little further to Lake Salmon.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, well, listen, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a good option for people. Lake Radcliffe is kind of sandwiched in between the route at mile 90 and mile 260. And so regardless of whether you're going out on the route or coming back, you get off route like a half a mile or something, and you're at Salmon Lake. So, or not Salmon Lake, Radcliffe Lake, which was intentional. So there is that option to camp there. It's a great campsite. But I think, if you could push on to that 120 mark at Salmon Lake, that's probably a better option if you can make it there. Right? Are we on the same page, Lisa?
I agree. I did reserve beforehand, just thinking like I knew that's where I was going to stop, but I could have gone more. And how that impacted day two was like, it just kind of has that effect. If you kind of get it in more on your first day, the other days can work out differently for you. But I wish I had done that. It was also really nice, like Radcliffe. That could be another night if you're like, doing the larger loop, if you want to sleep there. It is really nice and had showers and everything. I wish I had a hose though, because after all that sand and mud, I just put it near the spigot and just with my bottle of water, just trying to get it off. But a hose sounds nice.
It's really good. Luxury.
Yeah, the only downside to Salmon Lake, I think, was having a bunch of bike packers sleeping underneath that roof and the sound and the echo that would. So my understanding was anytime someone would come in or wake up and leave, it kind of woke everybody up almost.
We managed.
But the only reason you had to do that was because it was raining, right? Otherwise, there's dispersed camping and you don't have. Yeah. So, yeah. Again, it's a great option. The owners are super awesome. Davis, Davis, what were your thoughts on favorite camping options? Did you even camp? I don't even remember.
No, I did not. I stopped in Mission Tejas for a short time to wash my face off and, just eat and sit for a second. So it looked like a great place to stop and camp. But from there, I kept riding and I was falling asleep on the bike. I don't even know what mile. It was like 30 minutes before sunrise. And I came up on, I think it was Radcliffe, the town, not the campground. So it was like 200 and some odd miles. And there was a church there and I slept behind the church. And I recommend, it was 10 out of 10. There was moss, it was nice and soft. So if you're, in a bad way and need to sleep behind the church, Radcliffe is, the place to stop.
Let me see here. So that's at mile 260. And there's a church there, huh?
Yes, there's an Exxon station right across
Radcliffe
the street.
Baptist Church. I see it with the Exxon.
Like directly across. Yep. Yeah, the gas station wasn't open yet, or I would have stopped and got some caffeine. But at that point, I was determined to either drink a lot of caffeine or sleep. So it was an obvious choice at that point.
So that brings up a good question. Somebody had asked about camping options and our thoughts on stealth camping. And so this is kind of in the same vein as good camping spots. And only 2 out of the 5 of y'all actually slept. But I have some thoughts and then we'll get y'all's thoughts as well. But I think, on day one, I think at, around mile 90 at Radcliffe, or mile 120 at Lake Salmon are going to be the best options. And then once you get into Davy Crockett National Forest, which is at, it depends on if you're on the Showdown or the Slowdown, but on the Showdown, it's at about mile 245. There's just unlimited camping. First, you have Mission Tejas State Park, which is a beautiful campsite. You can eat a burrito in their shower and rejuvenate yourself and then sleep in the bathroom and come out feeling fresh and fine. I highly recommend it.
Trees. It is a great group site area. It's nice and big. Yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful state park, and we're not there to tour, but it's a great place to lay your head down. Radcliffe, like Lisa said, is also. What is Radcliffe like, Lisa? You're the only one that has stayed there. So what was Radcliffe like specifically?
It's similar to Mission Tejas, where it has that that long entrance into it, but once you get into the middle. Actually, recently, a group of friends, we went to do the restaurant tour, and it kind of reminded me of Huntsville State Park, kind of a little bit like that, where it has like that lake in the middle and really open. It was really nice, but I did again reserve beforehand in anticipation. But if there was a group site or something, that could definitely be another good option. But yeah, it was pretty quiet. It was nice. The lake right there.
You never told me how the restaurant tour went. You're supposed to tell me how it went.
It's just been a week. It was just last week. This is my recap with you. That it was awesome. Thank you. We ended up going to another restaurant further down because we missed that first fiesta taqueria.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really nice. The day 2 we just drove to Bullet Grill because we had to drive back to San Antonio. But it's a really cool route. I could see how if you don't need to stop at the restaurant, you can still kind of like go that direction and do the rest or camp further along. But it's a really awesome route. And we saw a lot of gravel riders out there. I guess this past weekend was the
Prison
City gravel. Yeah, there was a lot of gravel cyclists out there. We got lost trying to find the hidden lake. Very, very lost. Taking the
Whoops.
Yeah, and that's the fun part of finding something hidden, right? You got to go through adventure, a lot of adventure.
Yeah. So did you follow the line on Ride with GPS or what?
To the hidden lake?
Yeah.
I relied on my friends. They had maps and stuff, but
they should have called me.
But we managed somehow. We followed something and went through the little channels there and hiked a bike. But we found the lake. There was a Boy Scout group, a big group out there. The whole lake had a lot of people actually that one day this past weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of groups, so it's pretty found now.
I know I went out there and rode it with my girls a couple weekends ago or 3 weekends ago, and there was 5 bike packers. No, there was 5 cyclists, and 4 of them were doing the Sam Houston restaurant tour. And it was like, whoa, people are out here riding. It's great.
We did run into some other bike packers too.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
The Hunter campsite, which is also a really nice place to camp.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to talk more to you about that, but we'll keep this one with East Texas Showdown. So more thoughts on camping is I've marked all the hunter camps on the route or that are close to the route that are just primitive camping. And then the nice thing about this year is that dispersed camping will be allowed in the National Forest. When we did it the first year, it was hunting season. Whoops. And so this year you don't have to worry about, Texans and their rifles or shotguns or whatever. So you can disperse camp. And like I said, I think, a hammock, if you're into hammock camping is a great option because there's just endless trees and you can hang up. You don't have to worry about a flat. You don't have to worry about everything being cleared out. You can just hang your hammock and get a good night's rest or whatever you need and keep on going on. Okay, we're down to the last couple questions. Y'all are doing great so far. I will nominate a winner when we're done and your check will be in the mail. Tips on not getting lost using GPS trackers. I personally only use Ride with GPS on my iPhone. I don't have one of those fancy GPS units, so I have nothing to offer here. But does anybody have tips on using GPS? To not get all right, Davis.
Don't rely on your phone. I feel like this is the one that's going to fail the earliest. I mean, I've had nothing but good luck with Garmin, and the phone I feel like is always secondary because it's not as reliable. I mean, my Garmin's never let me down.
Yeah, that's interesting. But then we have Andrew Honorma, who was not using a Garmin; he was using a Wahoo. But the reason he had to. Well, he finished, but I mean, he didn't. He technically withdrew from the race or whatever, disqualified because he went off route due to the fact that his device malfunctioned. And we heard several people talk about devices malfunctioning due to the rain, probably that came down. I think redundancy is good. I mean, I if I had more money, I would also have a GPS device. And then maybe use the phone as a backup. But, to kind of counter what you're saying, I've found, and maybe I've just been lucky, but my iPhone, if you put it in airplane mode, power saving mode, and you have Ride with GPS on, and you only turn it on if you need service, you need to call somebody, that's there for you. But they didn't ask about iPhones. They asked about GPS. So who else, did everybody else use a GPS unit?
I had a Garmin too.
Wahoo.
Yeah, Wahoo. I was fine. There was one tricky spot after Jacksonville, like whatever mile it was just like a 180-degree turn, but it didn't show up on the map as well. But that was like the only issue I had. Everything
that was where the routes joined together. That's where we met the other guys, right?
That's right.
It's just really, you had to really, really zoom in to be able to see that.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, I had issues, and Dave actually helped me a little bit with it. I think just before the first day ended, but my Wahoo, while I was riding the first 90 miles by myself, kept kind of glitching out to where it would lose signal, and I almost ended up in a similar situation as Anima. I just noticed that it wasn't tracking quite right. I mean, I knew when a certain turn or a certain bend would be coming up, and I could gauge the distance to that intersection. And I noticed just at the right time that the GPS was kind of lagging behind on that. And later throughout the day, when we caught up to each other and we were chatting a little bit, he brought up that the spot tracker might actually be, the GPS from the spot tracker might be interfering with the GPS from the Wahoo. And so as soon as I separated the two, and I initially had them both up front because it's recommended you have the spot tracker facing the sky so that it's got the best accuracy possible. As soon as I put that in my jersey pocket, left the computer up front, I ceased to have any of those issues.
Interesting.
So I kept it, the spot tracker in my jersey pocket the rest of the ride. Obviously, it wasn't raining and super cloudy for the rest of that ride anyways, so I didn't have any issues after that.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Good
And I'm
point.
super glad you brought that up. So what I would recommend, and what is probably the right thing to do, the best system, is to keep your two GPS units as far away as possible. I've always fashioned my GPS, my spot tracker, onto my saddlebag on the very top. And then if you have a GPS unit, you put that on front where you can see it. And you have that separation, but that is a really important tip, and they can interfere. And I wonder, now I want to ask Honorma where his GPS spot tracker was, because now I'm kind of curious, you know?
But, like we were talking about GPS units versus phones, because it rained so much, a lot of us lost our phones. I know a bunch of people who had to get new phones after the rain because it just, water gets everywhere. And I'm very guilty of it because I'm taking a lot of videos for marketing for my shop too. I had to get a new phone 3 days later. I had zero connection, no maps, no internet, no phone calls after first day. And I think put your phone away, protect your connection, and use Wahoo Garmin, especially if it's wet.
I'd go a step further and just say to everybody, because it's 2022 and not everybody knows how to do it anymore, buy a laminated map and learn how to read it.
Yes, good point.
So the last question that I would like to ask y'all, and this one is from me, but what did you learn the first time that you'll do differently the next time that you'll do it? And Lisa, you still have to answer, even though you're not signed up officially. You're gonna have to do it again eventually. So I don't know. Let's start with Davis. What did you learn the first time, and what will you do differently this go round?
Well, I definitely learned if it's raining, I'm going to bring a second pair of bibs. And I feel like Andrew could second that if he was on the call.
Oh my gosh.
Because he was in a bad way. I was also in a bad way, but not that bad. So
let's just pause and give that the tribute it deserves, because I think one of the highlights of the entire East Texas Showdown the first year was listening to Andrew's explanation of what was going on inside of his jersey. It's like sandpaper. Yeah. It was pretty epic. He talked about duct tape. He talked about a cast. There was lots of discussion going on, but that was one of the highlights for me, just sitting around the Bullet Grill and listening to him talk about the carnage that it did to his nether region. And man, respect. Honestly, respect though, to you and everybody. I mean, those were some rough conditions for real. So y'all had to put up with some serious conditions. Everything, y'all, everybody who completed, and even if you didn't, I mean, that was the real deal. You didn't no one got a hall pass on the first year,
Oh, absolutely. That sand was devastating, to say the least, in more ways than one. So second thing I learned that I'll take forward from any race, not just the East Texas Showdown, is to take better notes. I typed out all my mile markers for resupplies on my phone and took a screenshot, set as my background, so I could just pull my phone out and look at it and say, okay, mile 200 is, this or that. But specific to the East Texas Showdown, there's, I think it's called, is it wedges? Is that how you pronounce it? So that's where Mission Tejas is. So I wrote down the city name, Wedges, but camp beside it. And I should have put the name of the campground because, as it turns out, whenever it's, you've been riding for 18 hours, whatever it is, and you're looking for this campground so you can like stop and get some water and do whatever, I pulled my phone out and I looked for a Wedges campground. Well, there is a Wedges campground down the hill, like 6 miles, and it's like a couple 100-foot climb back out. So I went down there and there's no water and there's no anything. It's like a primitive camp. So then I had to ride back up and realize that Mission Tejas was in fact in Wedges, and I was not looking for Wedges campground. So more detailed notes is important.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're riding it, probably with your full attention on what you're doing. But when you're reading it, you're going to be like half brain cell, tired, hungry, grumpy, sleepy, whatever. So yeah, good notes. Lisa, what about you?
Would definitely ride more the first day and like plan out your day a little bit more, because the first day you just kind of do more mileage and go further, and maybe you can finish it less time. And I think, maybe just kind of pushing your limits a little bit more. I mean, in my case, I had planned for it. I had planned to stay there, and also being a woman and being by myself, I was really more concerned about my safety. But also having the GPS tracker did make me feel safe because I was being watched. I didn't feel completely like, okay, yes, you're out there, but we can find you. It just doesn't feel like kind of like that. So, I would probably just push further on the first day, or the first really big effort, I guess. Yeah, day.
Yeah, I think kind of day one's your opportunity to get a good push, because you're going to be feeling the best maybe. But then if you spend it all on day one, then what are you going to do day 2 and 3? So you got to find the balance. What about you, Dave? And you're not able to come back this year too, but I know that you would love to, I'm sure. So what did you learn, and what do you think you might do differently the next time?
Yeah, I absolutely would love to come back. I mean, I wouldn't really change a lot. I had the time of my life on that ride. I mean, it was hard as shit, but like it was so much fun though. I got to meet Alex, got to ride with him. I got to meet all of you. I think like the only thing I would change is like I think Davis mentioned, like I didn't bring an extra pair of bibs. I brought extra socks, which were really helpful, but I probably would have brought a change of bibs just because that second day was, I mean, that sand definitely got in some places, and I didn't have the bad luck that Andrew had, but it was weird. Other than that, though, I really wouldn't have changed anything. Like single speed gearing, maybe a little stiffer. I had the time of my life. I had a lot of fun. I thought you set up everything great for us to have a really good ride, whether you were trying to race it or whether you were trying to just ride it as you wanted to, like chill pace. It was a great time. I'm sad I can't be there this year for sure.
Yeah, man, I'm bummed you can't be there either. You'll be there in spirit. You can watch some dots and cheer on and get that perspective of it this year. And we might even do it in the fall. Who knows? I haven't decided yet. So there might even be another fall one. I don't know. One thing at a time right now. I'm just trying to bite off one piece of the elephant at a time. What about you, Alex? So you are coming back.
Yes. I definitely won't be packing as much as I did. I carried a whole saddlebag filled with my hammock, a second pair of bibs, which I used, 2 pairs of socks, which I used the second pair of. I didn't use a third. I don't need any of that crap though. So probably just the second pair of bibs and all that water.
Katya.
So in general, I consider my ride very successful for Slowdown. I pat myself on the shoulder. So because everything worked out. But the tire. So for the tire, I would definitely, I'm running 700 by 42 for sure. And I hope it will work out this time. We'll see. It's 100 more miles in the same period of time. So it's a slightly different thing. We'll see.
What will your approach be different this year, you think? Do you have a strategy of where you're going to sleep each night?
Yeah, I think I'm going to ride as much as possible on the first day, considering that we can do dispersed camping and I don't have to worry too much about anything. I think just before the night, I'm going to make sure I have enough food for the dinner and the breakfast, whatever I stop, in case there's nothing available, and I'll have space to carry it. Make sure to have enough water to last me through that period of time when there's nothing available. So, hopefully, I don't know, maybe I can cover 160 miles in the first night, sleep somewhere on the side of the road, doesn't matter, church, cemetery, whatever, as long as I can put my hammock, and ride as much as I can on the second day. And if I can manage with one night, it would be great. If I arrive Sunday lunchtime, that would be great. I'm pretty open-minded. I mean, I just want to finish before the party.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the fun part. Everybody wants to finish before the party. And, I've had people wonder if like that's the cutoff, and there is no cutoff, but I tried to design it in a way where most people, even if, you kind of take a lollygagging pace like I would take, if you break it down, it's definitely attainable to get there by 8 p.m.
Yeah,
it's doable.
With good weather, 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely with good weather. What about Davis and Alex? Also, y'all are coming back. So what are your strategies going to be this year? Davis, start with you. Are you going to be trying to sleep, not sleep? What are you thinking?
I carried a bivy first go around, like an actual structured bivy. Didn't use it. I'll probably bring just like an actual emergency bivy that's this big instead of this big. That faster bike, and just see how long I can go. It's kind of the same strategy as last time.
You're going to bring that new bolt cutter?
Oh yeah. As long as it's not like terrible conditions. And then I may bring the Chumba back out since it just keeps on going. I keep putting it through some terrible stuff.
Yeah. Dude, I'll tell you, I got the exact same bike, and it's like a tank, it's just going to keep on going. Alex, what about you? What's your strategy this year? You didn't sleep the first year.
Yeah, I will probably not sleep again. I probably won't pack all that stuff that I packed. The decision, I guess the big decision, is going to be leading up to about a few weeks out, whether it's going to rain or not. If it doesn't rain, I'll be on the same bike, like I said, the All City Nature Cross, but I'll set it up geared 1x11. It's not the hilliest, so it doesn't need to be like Colorado or Arkansas gearing. But if it's raining and if it looks like it's going to be a mud fest, then I'll probably do it on the steamroller, which is going to be just essentially a track lacrosse setup. So fixed gear, brakeless, but with nice knobby 38s and having some real fun with it.
Wow. So you're mixing up the most. You did it single speed.
Yes.
And this year you're probably going to, with good condition, you're going to go geared.
Right.
And with poor condition, you're going to go track lacrosse.
Yes.
Nice.
Basis being, I mean, if I don't need to wear out brakes, then why should I? Katya mentioned earlier, it's not the hilliest of routes. I feel like I've done some pretty stupider things on a brakeless fixed gear bike in terms of elevation changes and riding dirt. But yeah, I feel like if I don't have to spend the extra money to buy more brake pads or deal with mechanicals, then all power to me.
So Alex, I'm curious, with the geared bike, let's say good conditions, you are going to be, carrying the mantle of the previous winner. So, and so are Davis and Katya, but interestingly, they both won the Slowdown and they're both going the Showdown, but you're coming back and you're doing the Showdown again. Do you feel any pressure to keep that time and keep that record, or?
So not necessarily pressure. I will say I've been busy with other things. Previous to Showdown, I was mostly in and out of jobs, mostly jobless. So I was spending a lot of time on the saddle. I just had that much free time on my hands. Now I've been busy full time just after the Showdown until now. Loving my job. I'm actually moving in a few days to Houston, so closer to Houston, at least closer to my job. And so I really haven't spent enough time training like I normally would like to, from going 300-mile weeks down to 200-mile weeks, I feel like I'm going insane. But I'm also trying to look at it from a more positive outlook too. I mean, I know I can do those distances now. I'm not necessarily trying to win, but if the conditions are great, that's more reason to at least do better than I did last time if I'm going to have 10 extra speeds.
Yeah, so good conditions, some extra gears, and some faster times maybe.
And a lot more rest than I'm used to.
All right, everybody. Well, that's the end of my questions. Did anybody have anything that they wanted to share or talk about that didn't come up or anything? I know Lisa wants to go back and talk about how she would take a different tire, I bet.
Yes, that would have been another thing, the different tire, for sure. But just speaking of, like, about what Alex, you ride your bike a lot. I did not do hardly any training before. It was really more of a challenge. Like, I just wanted to accomplish riding that mileage within 3 days that I was able to do it. But had I trained more, if you're more of that kind of cyclist in a training schedule, or you ride more, you commute more, however, that you'll feel better about it. But I was really pushing my own personal limits, like physical endurance wise. I was struggling. And had I ridden more beforehand, it would have probably been easier. But I think just that about like training, some people are like, how do I train for this? It's just like, yeah, you just ride more. And frankly, before this event, I did not ride as much as I could have or planned for, but it was also at that time how my schedule was and my availability, to ride beforehand. But you could definitely do it if, you just want to do it. But some people maybe have a better or that in mind of just going faster and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a super important thing to touch on. And I'm surprised that hasn't come up already, but it was intentional that the route is shorter because as somebody who also has 2 jobs and 2 kids and, has a busy life, it's hard to find time to train and ride 200 or 300 miles a week. Yeah. When he said 200 or 300, I'm like, oh man, if I get 50 a week, I'd be like happy. And that's kind of the fun thing about it though, is that it allows people to come and push their personal limits. I mean, Katya, that was her longest. I think Davis, that was longest. I mean, a lot of people that came and participated were just there to push their personal limits. And it wasn't about how fast can I go. Most people just wanted to be there for the bullet and be there for the end and the live music and the beers and all that stuff. And, but that's kind of the fun, is that I hope that we can do both. I hope that it can be a distance and an event that allows people to come and just push themselves, if they're busy and they have a lot on their plate. But if you are also able to, man, yeah, go without any gear, go light, go fast, go without sleep. We'll see you in a few hours. But that's the fun, though, I hope, of the event, is the shorter distances allow to get both groups, and you can have people who are fast and hungry and all these things, and they can come and they can have a good time. But you can also just kind of be a mom or a dad and all these other things, and you can come and you can push yourself and you can have a good time.
Well, as a mom, so my son's going to be 13 on March 30th. And I'm just so glad that, I can celebrate his birthday. Next day, go to Bullet Grill to sleep in the parking lot and race on April 1st.
That'll be awesome.
I'm glad it worked out this way.
Hey, we did it for your son. We wanted him to.
I wouldn't participate if it was on his birthday. I have to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's it. Is like, I get that as a parent, man, or just if you have obligations, whatever they are, man. Bikes are great and they bring a lot of value to our lives, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. And so that's kind of been one of the neatest things for me is getting so many people to come and enjoy the event, for those few days. And I think everybody that was there can agree that I'm not just saying this, but we had a good damn time the first time. I mean, weather be damned.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. Tell them.
Yes, we did.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. I think you made it, as someone who hasn't been riding bikes for very long, like 3 or 4 years, you made it a really inviting, long distance event that you made apparent. You could kind of choose how you wanted to ride it. And for me, that took a lot of pressure off. And otherwise I would be maybe freaked out about trying to go as fast as I could. And instead I just wanted to push myself to see how fast can I go, not trying to necessarily win or whatever. But I thought you did a really good job setting it up like that. And I was really thankful to have that as like my first long distance event, really.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. That's exactly what it should be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Come and do your best, man. It's not about the person next to you. It's about the person next to you when you're done and you're sharing a beer or a burger or whatever it is. But, when you're out there on your bike, it's about you and your experience, and be there for yourself, Find whatever it is that you're looking for, push yourself in whatever you're looking for, but being the fastest isn't the thing. It's fun to go fast, and certainly we should acknowledge those efforts, but we should also acknowledge everybody who comes, signs up, puts their tire in the sand in those conditions. I mean, hats off, the first round will go down in infamy as all of y'all were badasses, because those were tough conditions. All right, folks, I think that's it. All right. Well, thank y'all so much. Seriously, for coming on. This went really well with 5 guests. I've never had this many guests before. I appreciate all y'all's input, and really looking forward to seeing everybody out there. And Lisa and Dave, y'all will be missed, but we'll pour one out for. Oh, you're not dead. We won't pour one out for. We'll drink one for you. That's what we'll drink one for you.
Definitely.
We'll drink one for you. All right, Dave, go party at Mardi Gras. Everybody have a good night. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. A special thanks to all of our past participants for coming on and sharing their knowledge. They are the professionals. They know more about this route than anybody. So, appreciate them coming on and sharing their nuggets of knowledge. And, man, short and sweet today. Next week's episode should be an episode with my friend Connor and I. We're going to be recapping our Big Bend birthday bash weekend where we went bike rafting down the Rio Grande River. And telling you all about that trip. And should be good. I think that's it this week, folks. We are in hyperdrive, getting ramped up for East Texas Showdown. I am just praying for good weather. That would be sick. We've seen the course at its absolute worst, and it would be really cool to see it at its absolute best. If I had to put a wish out there, it would be a high of 70, a low of 50, and just sun and clear skies. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know. I mean, I can't control the weather, but that would be sick. It would be really fun to have the two different experiences and see the course and it's in all its glory, I guess. So we'll see what we get. We're 30 days away, and I cannot wait to see y'all out there. Until then, don't forget, go ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke, stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes, oh, death, bikes.